Hello, everybody. This is Colleen with Emergency Encounters. I'm hoping that everybody out there in the Facebook and YouTube world are doing well tonight. And I'm here with the crew. I'm here with the world's worst spy, Grumpy Bird.
Oh
Grumpy
my
bird.
gosh. Grumpy
I'm only
birdie.
I'm only grumpy when technology doesn't work like it's supposed to. It's supposed to be like super simple, and it never is.
Never is. I was
But
just fighting with it.
yeah. But with us tonight is the dark and mysterious Messy
Messy
Jessie.
Jessie. Yeah. And I am here with the most beautiful Miss Cam.
Hello.
Yeah, and Cam is new to the group here, and we have a great topic for tonight. We kind of did this one as an actual podcast before, but I thought since we're kind of revamping the show, let's bring this one back and talk some more about it. And we're talking tonight about the possession of Annalise Michelle, and this is a spooky case. And when we go through it, we'll decide whether or not you think she's possessed or not, was she really possessed. It's really it's creepy. So um, this happened she was born September 21st, 1952. So September 21st. So she was born on not the equinox, but the solstice, right? That's
Yeah.
a solstice baby, September
Yeah.
21st. So yeah, yeah. So she was devoutly Catholic. The whole family was really, really, really Catholic. And um, 4 years before Annalise was born, her mother, Anna Michelle, so Annalise, gave birth to an illegitimate daughter. Really unheard of in that time frame, really, with the devoutly Catholic, right?
hmm
I mean, it's not unheard of completely, but usually they would be unmarried ladies usually went to they were kind of farmed out and
Yeah.
away from their hometowns so that nobody knew about their children, right? If they were illegitimate.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it was a
Yeah,
sin.
yeah. And it's oh man, tough. That's tough too. So this was really a source of shame for like Anna's family, like her parents, everybody. It was really, really not heard of. It was very shameful. And um, so this was actually, so Anna gave birth to Annalise 1952. So this was only not too long before my brother was born. So I mean, I don't even know how my mom would have dealt with something like that coming from a very devoutly Catholic family as well. I don't know. So she ends up getting married though after the illegitimate daughter, and I don't know what to call her, so I don't want to call her the illegitimate daughter, but after the birth of her first daughter, she gets married and she gives birth to Annalise. And I think there was some writings that said that she really, her mother, Annalise's mother, had a lot of kind of ill will towards her first child. Like she didn't have the best feelings about this child because she was an unwed mother and probably in really an unwanted pregnancy back then. And, you know, so
Yeah.
not the kid's fault, but anyway. But the little girl ends up dying at the age of 8, and that's tough.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
sad.
And Annalise felt like she had to repent for her mother's sins. And that's a tough burden because and if the little girl who died at 8, Annalise is only 4, right? So that's tough, man. So you're growing up in the shadow of a sister who's dead, and you feel like you have to atone for the sins of your mother.
Yeah.
And that's wow, that's really tough. So she spent a lot of time doing penance and not being a Catholic myself. don't understand like exactly what that means. I would
It's constant prayer and constant, like, you would go and repent, like, all the time. Anything that you do,
okay.
I believe.
So you're going to actually church and hey Mad Max. So you're actually going to church and
Yeah,
you're
penance
talking to
is
the
like
priest or
repent.
you're
Hmm.
mm, so
Yeah,
that's heavy. That's a heavy burden for a kid, you know?
yeah,
And so I would imagine that that would really screw with you psychologically after a while
yeah,
to
because
do some
everything you did was wrong.
everything. And then
Everything.
everything that your mother did was wrong. So you're trying to make up for that.
Just being
And
Yeah,
alive
kids
is
already,
wrong.
huh?
yeah,
Just being alive is wrong.
yeah,
Well, and think about it too. Kids already, we kids take on a lot that they shouldn't take on. Like if your parents get divorced, it's all your fault. If whatever
yeah,
happens, it's all your fault. You did something wrong. Like I should have gotten up earlier and they wouldn't have gotten divorced because then they wouldn't have yelled and blah blah blah, you know?
yeah.
So that's tough, man. Okay, so um she starts these symptoms and for those of you coming on, we're talking about the possession of Annalise Michelle and she starts the symptoms of possession start in 1968. She's a 16-year-old high school student. So kind of coincides with it's probably a few years late, but think about, I mean, she's gone through puberty. She's thinking about repenting all the time. She's going through all of this stuff. She starts having hallucinations. So, um, her she ends up going to a neurologist who diagnoses her with temporal lobe epilepsy. Okay, and that causes seizures, right? Memory loss and it can cause hallucinations. Doesn't always, but it sure can. So, is she possessed or does she have a neurological condition? It's like you, yeah.
Yeah, didn't she have like a fainting spell in school and she kind of brushed it off? And she's like, maybe I was
I
like
think
not feeling
so. I
good or
think you're right
something.
about that.
Hmm.
And this disorder, or this, so these seizures and this neurological condition can cause something called Geschwin syndrome. And Geschwin syndrome causes one to act in an excessively religious manner. Okay. So, isn't that crazy?
I
So
don't.
she's now has this neurological condition. I don't know if she at this point or her parents at this point or what's going on, but somebody believes she's possessed. But is it the neurological condition? I mean, it just sounds like a vicious circle.
Yeah,
Well, I'm sure
it's
maybe like at the time that it was happening, and given the context of where they're from, it's possible that with their religious beliefs, maybe they didn't want to take the doctors seriously, and that rather than it being a real medical issue, she's just possessed.
yeah.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
sound like the parents heard what the doctor said and they're like, no, no, we'll just, I guess, pray it away or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not it. But thank you for sure.
Yeah.
Pray
I
away.
don't know. So, okay. So this is 1968. I mean, this is like the hippie revolution, right? I mean, but I don't know. Okay. So she's in Germany, but here it's the hippie revolution, right?
Yeah.
It's,
Woodstock,
yeah, it's
baby.
peace, love, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
And they're in the protests of the Vietnam War and all this, but this is Germany, and I don't know what where she's living, what it was like there, but yeah, devoutly Catholic. So I'm sure that, and we've dealt with this in the paranormal realm, right? Where we
Yeah.
get clients that come in, and based on your religious background is how you see the paranormal. So a
Yeah.
lot of the Catholic families that we've dealt with over the years tend to look at the paranormal as being demonic.
Yes.
Mhm.
Very much
Okay,
so.
instead of um, well, how would I say this? So they view things in the and good versus evil kind of thing,
Mhm.
where people maybe without that religious background see things as, oh shit, there's dead Uncle Fred. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's weird because they do exorcisms. I don't know. Like they do the exorcisms for everything that's possessed. So they have to believe in something supernatural.
Oh yeah,
They can't
because
say that it's evil.
I don't think for this particular religion, especially with the Vatican, that you could have one without the other, because a lot of the business of the Catholic Church is based around this fear of evil and demonic beings. So, I mean, it kind of
Mhm.
makes sense why, everything's evil, or
Hmm.
my
Yeah.
daughter's possessed and not mentally ill, or
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's a whole lot easier for some families to look towards possession rather than mental illness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then that's a flaw in your child, instead of, well, a priest can heal this, and
Yeah.
it's really interesting though. If you've so we're one of a handful of teens in the United States that is accepted by the paranormal clergy, which is, we have exorcists in the United States, and they like our work. Have we ever had to call them in? No, because we usually can. I mean, I've never seen possession. Does it happen? I guess so. Or we wouldn't have exorcists, right?
Mhm.
But uh usually there's something else going on. It's mental illness, it's medication that's causing problems, it's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, black mold and maybe some like noxious gases that are coming in. Like,
Yeah. So anyway, so she's 16 years old now. She has this neurological condition that's causing seizures, and it's also causing this Geschwin syndrome. So she's acting in an excessively religious manner, but she is excessively religious because she's Catholic, doing penance for her mother. This poor kid, right? She's 16. It's a hell of a childhood. Okay. So she's taking medication for the seizures, right? And she finishes high school and she goes on to college when she's studying to become a teacher. So she's got it together, she's got a plan, she's got a course in life,
Mhm.
and but the medication's not really helping her that much, and things start getting worse, and it's terrible, man. So over time she's complaining of seeing disturbing visions, and she's saying her prayers, and then she starts saying evil voices are giving her commands. That's a problem.
Yeah.
and that sounds like schizophrenia, just
Yeah,
a little bit.
it certainly can be, right? And
Yeah.
um my ex-husband was schizophrenic, did not know that, didn't know it. I didn't know what was going on with him. And boy, that's a heavy burden for someone to have,
Yeah.
because there's it's um the not knowing where reality is, that would be terrifying. At least for me, I'm a control freak, right?
Yeah. I
So
get it.
that would be hard. It would be really hard. So she starts, and what's really interesting is this is where it starts kind of turning in the story. So is this because this is a girl who grew up doing all of this penance for her mother and she's devout, but now she starts to show an aversion to religious icons. So you show her a crucifix or the Virgin Mary statue or something like that, and she's really going off the deep end.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that possession? Because now something's changed.
Didn't they
Yeah,
say that she was seeing the devil when she would look at her face in the mirror?
I think she saw something. I think you're
Yeah.
correct in that. And yeah, I was going to bring up at one point tonight. I'm going to share a couple of pictures of her, um, particularly as when she passed. So um, it's I'm going to try to open this link so you guys can see it because she was really a really pretty girl. If I can figure out how to do it in a live studio, can I do that? Yes, I can. Look at this.
Yeah. So while you're looking at that, I was reading something about she had sleep paralysis. Like it was one of the worst ones, obviously, before this started getting worse, that she had it so bad that it was pressing down on her and causing so much pain. And she actually peed the bed. She couldn't even move.
So this is her. She's a beautiful girl. She's just lovely, you know? But God, just thinking about what she's going through at this point is just awful. Okay.
Yeah.
So God, I did not know about the sleep paralysis. So there's so much in this case. All right. So I'm gonna start I'm going to show some more pictures as we get into this because this is really disturbing. So the evil voices are given her commands, and then she's shown aversion to religious iconic. How do you call it? Say this iconic. Anyway, icons. I'm just going with icons. Okay. And then an older woman who was a friend of the family said that she smelled hellishly bad.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Like she I think she suggested let's take this girl to go see a priest at this point.
Yeah.
Okay? Because there's some problems here. And hellishly bad. That's pretty interesting. Many of the priests said, "Look, she needs a doctor. She doesn't need us." But one of these priests eventually said she needs an exorcism. Now, in order to get an exorcism, it's not easy. There's a lot of ropes that the exorcists have to jump through to get um, an exorcist to get permission to do an exorcism, and it's not easy, and it actually takes some doing. Otherwise, it would be happening all the time, right? Because they really
Yeah.
want to see documentation of something going on for a long time, and so he's granted the permission to do this, and not all priests do exorcisms. Okay, so all right, so they grant the exorcism, and she starts complaining of seeing disturbing visions and while saying her prayers. So that's another, like, okay, maybe this is possession because now she doesn't like the icons. She's still saying her prayers, but she can't stand to see any imagery, and now she's seeing visions. And then she starts compulsively doing hundreds of squats a day.
Man,
Now
if I
that's
could do hundreds of squats.
400 to 600. Can you imagine?
No.
Can you imagine that? 400 to 600 squats a day?
I can't even bend down to pick anything up, Colleen. I'm like, ugh. You know? Let alone squats.
I mean, 400, 600 squats. She'd be able to kick a door, any door.
Yeah, that's what she would do. She said she actually did so many squats a day that she ruptured the ligaments in her knees.
Oh my God.
So this could be another mental thing though, right? So this could be that maybe like an OCD thing. Like I don't know, I'm not a therapist, but wouldn't that fall into that realm of that compulsive obsession thing?
It could.
Or it could be something to keep her mind off whatever's running through her mind. Like if you got something just tittering in your ear all the time, you're like, I'm just going to work out. And it'll take your mind off it for a while, but as soon as you stop, the chittering's back.
Yeah. Okay, so apparently she starts screaming too at this point, like just shouting and screaming, and it was going on constantly. People could hear it. She was just like, I don't know, hollering, screaming. I mean, I do that to my dogs, but it's a little different, you know. And later, evil voices are now giving her commands, and she's starting to follow these commands. She's hearing these orders, and now she's starting to follow them, and she's it just gets weirder and weirder, and I feel so sorry for this young lady. So I'm going to show you a picture at this point of what she kind of looks like at this point, and it's ooh. Anyway, this is her now.
I know the progression.
Dang.
Yeah,
Brutal.
she's looking pretty rough here. There is no doubt that this young lady is going through something. Okay. Mental, physical, both, I don't know, but there's no doubt. Okay, so in 1975, she and her parents stopped seeking medical advice and gave over her treatment to priests. Apparently, her parents thought it was better for her to go through the exorcism route than to go through get any kind of medical help. And her parents truly believed at this point she was possessed. And she said, Annalise herself was saying that Judas, Nero, Hitler, Cain, and Lucifer were inside of her. Now, this is a college
That's
girl,
crazy.
so she knows a lot of this history, and she knows, right? So,
You're right.
but still, over the next 10 months, two Father Arnold Renz and Pastor Ernest Alt performed 67 exorcisms. 67 exorcisms for this young lady.
So you're telling
And
me
that
they try to
blows my
control
mind.
Alt Delete?
What's that?
They're trying to control Alt Delete?
Yeah, exactly. Hard
Sorry.
reset, right?
His name is
I
Alt,
can't
and
even
that's what I got.
imagine. 67 exorcisms. Can you imagine the physical portion of that, though?
No, physical and mental, that's a lot.
I would have
Yeah.
stopped after 3. I mean, like, we've done this 3 times and nothing has changed.
Gosh. I feel like it's
guess-
almost abuse.
Oh, definitely.
You know?
I would say it's torture at this point.
Yeah.
After a few of them, that's torture. So, it's so they said absolutely the medication she was on did not help her health, right? And one of the things when I went back and I from the first time I researched this case to now, I have done some research on some of the medication that they give you for seizures actually causes seizures. So she's been taking this medication the whole time, and she's still having these issues. Could have been the medication. We know a lot more now, and they're still prescribing some of that medication that still gives people with seizures, which is mind blowing to me.
Didn't they give her like Dilaudid or something like that? Isn't that what it was? I know. They were giving her some of that too on top of her seizure medication.
Well, so here's where this is really weird. She was apparently started urinating and defecating on the floor frequently, and she's trying to drink her own urine, or she would lick it off the floor. She was eating insects. She was growling at religious icons, and she would sit under the kitchen table and bark for days. Okay. Her family is now pretty much afraid of her because they don't know what she's capable of. And remember, they believe she's absolutely possessed. And anyway, for those of you who don't know the story, I'm going to show you a picture of what happens to her in the end. But I don't understand how a priest can let things get so far without calling in doctors, like medical doctors, to help her to diagnose.
I think it was.
mental.
Yeah, I think it was what Cam was saying, was it had to do with religion, like how faithful they were to the church, and what they believed in. I don't think they believed in doctors. Um, Back then, there was a lot of people that even went to mental facilities just for anything, So that's also one of the things I think was the issue back in those days. Like, I think,
In
yeah.
the late 60s that was happening?
Oh yeah, like people would
Yeah.
put anybody in a mental facility for anything. I mean, it started when we did a show on our area with the Blackfoot South.
Right.
They would put anybody in there for a woman wanting to divorce her or talking back to her husband. I mean,
I know that
even
was
still.
happening. I just didn't know it was happening through like 1970.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's fairly common too, especially within Catholicism, that mental health issues aren't necessarily recognized, whether or not they point it to being possession or not. It's not really something that parents of Catholic parents tend to really recognize, is that my child might actually have an illness. Rather, it's maybe they're being defiant or not quite following in line, is my understanding from studying the religion itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one of the things that I found interesting in this case too is that apparently during the exorcisms, that what did we say, 67 exorcisms that happened with this young lady, she spoke several different languages, and she didn't speak several different languages before the exorcisms. So I wonder where that came from, or maybe she'd been exposed to different languages at school and somehow just her brain incorporated all that. I don't know. Or was she speaking Pig Latin and they just figured it was another language? I don't know.
Yeah.
She could have went to a library and just like, oh, I'm interested in some languages, and started reading different languages, and for some reason, I don't know, she just had that photographic memory, and they're like trying to exercise her, and they're like, who's in there, who's in there, and she says something in like Italian, like the bus stop is over there.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
never know.
exactly. Oh my God. Okay, so at some point before, but during these different exorcisms that she went through, the clergyman believed that there were 6 different demons inside of her body. And that's what they attributed the different languages to. And uh, uh, it is believed that they chained her up during all of this because she wasn't safe.
That's
Okay.
terrible.
And so remember that this was 1968, all of this kind of started. 1976, she dies. Okay. She died of starvation, basically. And I'm going to show a picture of what she looked like when she died, and it's absolutely horrific. This is a before and after.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
Yeah, she was covered in sores, and this was her right, I guess, like a few days before that. And it's absolutely heartbreaking that this young lady went through this. What she possessed, I don't know. I do believe mental illness. There's some, you know.
Mm-hmm.
During her autopsy, they they showed she had fractured teeth, bruised limbs, and black eyes, and she died of dehydration and malnutrition. She was basically starved to death and didn't have any liquids, right? So she weighed 68 pounds at the time of her death when she was 23 years old.
Oh my gosh. That's
So
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
the
crazy.
time frame was 1968 was when she started having those symptoms. And then 1976 is when she died. And what's really interesting about this case is that the priests were actually tried and convicted and found guilty of negligent homicide and were fined and given prison sentences.
Good.
And that's bonkers to me. I mean, I agree, but I can't believe that a court would actually even bring them in and hold them accountable for this.
Uh,
So,
they were that poor girl was under their care, and they messed up royally.
I agree, but she was also in the family home. And why weren't her parents held accountable as well?
Their parent,
Yeah.
her parents, her mom was held accountable, I believe.
Oh, was she?
Yes, she was. She did. What from what I was reading, she did go, and she was charged with negligence because,
Okay.
and she was only sentenced to like 6 months or something like that. Not
Oh,
very much. And also, I will add on top of that, the priests were suspended for um, doing any kind of church things for 3 years as well.
Yep. Yep.
so after their prison sentences and all that?
Hmm. Yeah, they
Okay.
could not practice. They couldn't be priests. They were suspended, basically.
You'd
It's
think
interesting.
the church, well, why weren't they kicked out? They should have been kicked out, but
Yeah.
whatever. I don't understand all of that stuff. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think she was possessed? Do you think it was mental illness or a little of both?
It could be a mix of both, maybe. I mean, like you said, she had that condition where she was really, really religious, and then something happened, and she did a 180, and all of a sudden now she's possessed and has has demons in her and speaking different languages. The different languages, though, really piques my interest because what languages is she speaking fluent? I mean,
That's a good point.
or yeah, or I mean,
Donde el baño. Isn't that how you say where's the bathroom? I mean, isn't a donde something el
I,
baño? It's like where's the
um,
bathroom in Spanish or something like that. And
all I know is
El Gato is
uno
muy gordo.
cerveza and el baño.
El
what did you
Gato
say?
es muy gordo.
El gato es muy gordo. So, I mean, exactly to your point. What is she speaking fluently or just snippets
Yeah,
of
she's
things
speaking
that we don't know
fluently,
about?
and also the 6 other demons that were supposedly in her, and they're talking. Okay, well, how would she know some of the languages that they spoke centuries ago? I mean,
Well, it doesn't say that they were ancient languages. It doesn't say it was Latin. It doesn't say anything like that. Although she was Catholic, I bet she did know Latin.
a
Um,
little bit, yeah, but
well,
is she speaking fluent Latin?
well, no, it
Um,
doesn't. It didn't say, did it, Jess or Cam? Did it
um,
say what languages?
I didn't see anything
I
that
didn't.
what languages, just languages.
Yeah.
and
And
some,
how did they know unless the priests were speaking different languages if she was actually speaking a different language, not just gibberish?
and then wasn't one of the demons that was possessing her, like, what was his name? Plato.
I,
Well, she claimed that she had where's that list? Oh, here it is. Judas, Nero, Hitler, Cain, and Lucifer, and others
Yeah.
inside of her.
Okay, so Nero would be Greek. How would she know Greek?
Well, she was a college student, so I mean, she's exposed to, who knows what course, and she wanted to be a teacher. Maybe she wanted
Right.
to be, I don't know.
that could have been her major.
Yeah,
Philosophy or something.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So if somebody, I mean, I don't know how to approach something like this. If we've had clients with the paranormal group here I've had a few people who believed that they were probably possessed. And I go through like 50 different questions with him, um, and question the same way, same type of questions, but approached from different angles to try to figure it out. And honestly, I have never run across possession. I have run across people who believe they were being influenced, and I believe that's different than being possessed. I'm, I think you can be
Yeah.
influenced heavily by the paranormal. You can be influenced by negativity that could be associated with paranormal, but possession is a little different. That's
Yeah.
being taken over. And can it happen? Yeah, I assume so. If you can be influenced, you can be possessed.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I have three things that I've been thinking about through this whole thing. One is I'm curious how her relationship with her parents at the time was. Was she abused before this happened? Like, the second thing, I really feel on both sides, I'm on the fence, but I think there was a lot of abuse going on in that home that maybe nobody knew about.
Mm-hmm.
Because back in those days, you don't talk about your business, right? Um, and we don't really know a lot of the details of anything before this, and I feel that, and I think that when there's abuse in the home, and it's been going on for so long, she went to school. Granted, yes, she had issues with her, her brain. She had schizo or epilepsy seizures, um, what can cause a lot of issues with your body physically and mentally. And so it's really hard to I could see where people are like, I think this is a medical thing. But at the same time, there was things that she did. There was I think she um, talked about a priest that was in some kind of different time era that was just I want to say disbarred, but that's not what it is. But um, anyway, that was
Excommunicated?
excommunicated because of things that he did that nobody knew, just the church knew.
Oh,
And so, how she came up with all of this information, whether it was detail or not, I don't know.
that's interesting. There's a lot about this that you were able to find that I haven't found, and in my reading. And admittedly, I didn't go back and try to. Yeah, a little busy in the last few days, but yeah, this was a really fascinating case, and I you got to wonder too. Okay, she had that neurological, so she had what was it? Epilepsy.
Epilepsy. Mm-hmm.
Okay, if she was having some kind of mental issues going on as well, did she have a psychotic break? And is that
Yeah.
what all of this was? Because I've witnessed that with my
Mm-hmm.
ex. I actually saw it. I saw it happen, and it took him a long, long, long time to come back from that. If he
Yeah.
ever fully did, I don't know. And it is terrifying to watch that
Yeah.
and see that happen to somebody that you love. And I wonder if that could be what happened and they didn't recognize it, didn't know how to treat it. I knew instantly what was going on, couldn't stop what was happening, but I
Yeah.
knew that that was what was going on. But yeah, I mean, that's terrifying to see anybody that you love go through something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It almost sounds like it was just she had a mental break of some sort, and it just spiraled, and she kept spiraling,
Yeah.
and they just they didn't know what the family didn't know what to do, and they were like, "No, it's not a mental health thing. She's possessed." And then these people come in and they just keep putting pressure on her all the time. So the mental break gets worse, not better.
Right.
Because remember, like you said, is that she had that she had that one thing instead of being super religious, she goes the other way. So super religious people come in and they're like, "We're gonna fix you," and you're like, she's like, "No, you're not," and she just keeps going until I don't know. I don't know.
What do
I
you
don't
think,
know.
Cam?
Yeah, it's hard because I think there are some things that you can't quite explain, like the languages and then the complete aversion to religious objects. But at the same time, I don't think it's undeniable that she clearly had some mental health issues. And I think when you have that religious aspect to it, coming from such a religious home, it's almost like a catapult for it. And it almost just seems like it's very, I don't know, it's complex. And I think there's a big intersection between mental health and religion here. But I think the family almost just, it seemed like they very quickly came to the conclusion that it had to have been some sort of possession and demonic being rather than maybe acknowledging some sort of health issue or mental health issue.
Mhm.
And I think that's what they gravitated towards. And who knows, maybe in her brain, because she was so ill, she also just went with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
possible. I mean, way back in the 60s, the 70s,
Way back.
even in the 80s,
Whoa. Whoa.
you didn't tell anybody that you were mentally ill. Nobody. I mean, you had to keep that under wraps because there's a ton of stigma behind it.
There still is ton of stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know about now. Maybe not so much, but
I mean, things are improving as far as being able to recognize it, but yeah. So, and I don't think I finished my thought about when we have clients that contact
Oh,
us about um, where they think that there's possession or something like that. I've never, like I said, I've never once found a case of possession where I had to call in an exorcist. What I have found is that usually it's, I don't know how to, religious fervor. I mean, is that like they're just so wrapped up in their frame of reference that it's really hard for them to step outside and say, when you start quizzing them and you start asking them, could it be dead Uncle Fred? I mean, that's the terminology that we coined a long time ago. It's dead Uncle Fred. Have you had a relative pass on?
mm,
And do you was there like was sometimes people will smell cigarette smoke and did you have a relative pass on? And oh yeah, you do, dirty birdie. But and then you start quizzing them and they're like, well, yeah, my dad did. And then you ask, well, was he a heavy smoker? And then oh, well, yeah, he was. Well, you know, a lot of times they think that what they're smelling is because they've got something in them now that's making them smell cigarette smoke. It's like, no, you're not possessed. You're
yeah.
you're actually smelling a the spirit of your father. I mean, it's really interesting to take people in, and that's why when we talk about to people about what's going on with them or their homes, you have to find out what's their religious background because it plays a huge part of who they are.
Mm,
Huge. So I feel really bad about this young lady. I feel I'm glad that people were held accountable. I don't think enough people were held accountable. Yeah, I know I said it her mother, but it didn't. Did you say was her father also held accountable for this?
he was not. He was not. I don't know why they didn't, but
Okay.
yeah, that's what I was reading. It was the mom that was held responsible. The other question is, has anybody really know what happens in a possession or an exorcism? Like, how do we know these priests were not harming her during this? I mean, it's kind of like
Right.
these
Well,
questions that I'm like, what the
I,
heck goes on with these things?
I read a lot about another case that we'll talk about at another time, and it's a really famous case that and So, okay, if you go back and you watch the movie The Exorcist, right?
Hmm.
A lot of that, I mean, a lot of times these people are tied up or they're chained up. They get almost like superhuman strength during these things. And they will actually break bones to try to get out of the chains or the ties or the whatever their restraint system is. I don't know. They did say at one point she was actually chained up.
Yeah.
So, um, and the whole ritual of the prayers and everything else that goes on in a case of possession, and the one that I've studied, if you're truly possessed, you're fighting that because you don't want to hear it, you don't want to see it, you don't want to be touched with the crucifix, you don't want any part of it.
Hmm.
Now, what I have found interesting in some of the reading that I've done is and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never seen a case of possession that wasn't Catholic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, our friend on the other podcast, I believe he did talk about there was a little girl in the village where he grew up, but they were not Catholic. That would be
Right.
the only case, but I don't have anything to read on that, but that would be the only case that was a non that I've ever heard about that was non-Catholic possession.
Hmm.
So, but they because from what I remember when he was talking about like where they grew up, it wasn't there was not it wasn't religion, it was more belief based on witches and everything else. So
Right.
yeah, so it's really interesting that almost all I haven't heard of anything. Have you guys? I mean, have you ever heard of a Lutheran being possessed or a
Not yet.
now if you go and you look at like the Shakers, like the Shaker ceremony. Okay, so I've gone to all of these different religious churches in my time here on the planet, and I lived in Pennsylvania where they have Shakers and Mennonites and
Yeah.
Quakers and all of these, right? And so I've been to Shakers, and the Shakes, they make great furniture, right? But their services, they're like get into this form of almost possession where they shake and tremble, and that's how they dance, and that's why they're called the Shakers. And
Oh,
it's a religious kind of thing that they get into. And
I've
so,
just
is that
yeah, I just thought
possession?
about the Southern, like, doesn't the Southern Baptist or uh don't they do possession stuff and then the guy comes up and you're healed and they fall and
Well, yeah, I've been to a few of those.
I
Yeah,
probably
So,
did that really bad.
so
But
walk around.
I just looked this up, and around the time of the story of uh, our other friend having seen that possessed little girl was Roman Catholic. Most of them were Roman Catholic back then.
Yeah, but he said in that area in that village they weren't. So I
I'm
don't
just saying. I'm just saying that was there.
because that's what I thought initially. I thought, well, that's interesting that there's a possession without Catholicism. So I don't know. And if you're in the audience and you're hearing this and you disagree, please type a message because I don't know. I mean, this is
I
I've
mean, I
never
think
heard.
there are some religions that have the concept of possession, but I don't think they go to the extent of the Catholics, where they have specifically trained priests to handle it,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have an exorcist that's in the Lutheran or
Right.
yeah, okay. I think Jesse, you were talking about the faith healers, and that's all a BS service, just so you know.
well,
It's it
I look forward to what is it, Tammy Faye and her makeup.
and the makeup's melting off her face.
Tammy Faye
Like
Baker,
the
man. I haven't
biggest
heard that name in a long
eyelashes I've
time.
ever seen. Bless her soul. But
Tammy Faye Baker, wasn't that her name?
hmm
Tammy
Mhm.
Faye
Tammy Faye
Baker.
Baker. Yep.
Oh my gosh, that lady, she was
Yeah.
crazy. Um, Mad Max said Protestants, we just get the $4
this shit slapped.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, $4.
We get $4 slapped out of us. That's right.
It's awesome.
It's like
What are you
$2
talking about?
for the newspaper. Now it's $4.
It's like,
Dang you, demon! You owe me money. Give me $4.
I did read though that after her exorcism, though, the Vatican did kind of revamp how they handle exorcisms. So modern, now current era, it seems that they do go through psychiatric evaluations first before they can deem that somebody is eligible for an exorcism. So I thought that was pretty interesting given what she had gone through.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to wonder how many cases are out there that were never published. Like they were never documented to the extent that this young lady's case was documented, because that would be fascinating to actually like be able to get to the Roman Catholic documents and read all of these possession cases and how they handled them. And I think it would be fascinating. Are they going to let anybody in? No. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
wonder how many they've documented that were just never publicized. I
from
mean, is this
from what I've heard, it's
common?
hundreds of cases. It's just that never came to light.
So is it all just mass hysteria, or do people or do spirits actually inhabit somebody? Or I mean, does a demon? I don't know. I mean, is it just like I said, religious fervor? Is it like just people just? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I
There has
believe
been
that there is stuff, but
Is
yeah, there's I guess there's been an uptick in people claiming that we are in a spiritual battle between good versus evil.
yes.
I've been hearing that my whole life, so I don't know. Is there
Yeah,
really
but
any Native American cultures that talk about possession like this?
don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because I think a lot of it is other cultures will try to keep it privatized, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, now I don't know if that necessarily is the issue at hand, but I mean, there could be a lot of these exorcisms and possessions in other religions and cultures. We just don't hear it as much, you know, and it's not publicized as much either. And
Okay.
I feel that's probably maybe that as well. And honestly, if you really think about it, being possessed by a demon or a devil, it scares the shit out of me. Like seriously, being a empath and a medium, that stuff scares the shit out of me. I will not mess with that. I won't.
It would be so the way I approach
shows a
everything
night,
is
babe.
that you
That's
would
it.
have to invite that.
I knew that
in.
was coming.
You have to invite. Like, and I tell people this in our classes: be careful what you invite to your home, or be careful what you mess with, because once you open a door, you may not be able to close it, and that is
Correct.
that invitation. Once you put that out there, you have to be careful. And
Yeah.
I have always approached it from don't you would have to invite that in, but maybe not. But then again, I don't know. I'm not religious, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, you could always have tag-alongs too. You know, you go out and you do an investigation, or you do an investigation and something decides to attach itself to you and ride home with you. Or another one is you go to well, you go thrifting or something like that, and you find a nifty little doll, little porcelain doll, and you notice that nobody's touched it in 6 months. But you decide to pick it up and take it home, and now you have issues.
Yeah, but that's a haunting or an attachment. That's not a possession. That's different. A possession
Okay.
is taking control of you.
All right.
That's where That's I mean, a lot of people can get into attachments, and they do.
Mhm.
A lot of people get attachments, but it's not a possession.
It's
And
like
there's a big
Chucky.
distinction. Hmm?
It's like Chucky, you know? That's a
Yeah.
possession.
Possession. Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well,
I
interesting.
yeah, this case.
Yeah, this case gets me because when I've gone back on this case like 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, okay, is she possessed or is she mentally ill? Or maybe she's mentally ill and possessed. Is she I mean, you just keep going back and forth. The fact that she didn't like the religious icons after she grew up her whole life idolizing it makes me think possession, but then maybe she finally said, I'm just done with this and I don't want
Mhm.
to see it anymore. You know? I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know.
I think mentally ill because she's under a kitchen table barking at people. That would that would be a cause for concern.
Yeah.
Mad Max asked, "Do you have to invite a possession?" I believe so. At least that's my belief system. You have to invite it in. So yeah, I don't know. Patty, what do you think? Do you have to? Is it invited always, or is it? Can it just happen? I don't know.
I don't.
Anyway, that's our story for tonight. Next week we have a pretty fun topic coming your way. It won't be as serious. It's pretty fun and pretty gross. And Messy Jessie's all over it. She loves it. Yeah. And so thanks for coming at us. We're live every Wednesday night with our tarot card readings, and we're live every Thursday night with some topic on the paranormal weirdness out there. And then we also do the Thin Line on Monday nights. We record and then we release the episodes, and that is our first responder series that Jesse and I are doing, and it's so much fun and I love it. And Dirty Birdie and I have been doing some more shows on just topics, man, just crazy
Oh, the
topics.
funeral homes, man, those get me every time. It's just like, where have we heard this before?
I know.
Over. Oh, yeah,
Over
yeah.
and
You guys
over and over.
you have to watch it.
Yep.
It's
And McKenna, who's a co-host on our Wednesday night show, she's also does some funeral home series with me, and then we just did a disaster. I mean, it's like we're all over the board with the stuff. We hope we keep you entertained. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. It's we need it. We need the followers. We need the watch hours, and we've got to rebuild since we're starting over again. But we'll get there, guys. And we love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for staying tuned. And we're going to go ahead and sign off a couple of minutes early.
Hey, bye guys.
See ya.
Bye.
everybody.